So today we're diving into the story of a man who truly believed he could live among wild grizzly bears. I mean, he saw himself as their friend, their guardian even. But here's the thing about the wild. It doesn't really play by our rules. And that belief led to one of the most tragic and honestly cautionary tales in the history of wilderness exploration. You know, this isn't just a story about a guy and some bears. It goes so much deeper than that. It's really a story about respect, about boundaries, and about the sometimes brutal, unforgiving reality of nature. And our story begins not with a life, but with a really shocking discovery deep in the Alaskan wilderness.
Okay, so picture this. It's October 6th, 2003. An air taxi pilot, Willie Fulton, is flying in for a scheduled pickup. He's supposed to be getting his passengers, Timothy Treadwell and Amie Huguenard, but when he lands, instead of a greeting, he finds their campsite just silent, disheveled, and right away he gets that sinking feeling that something is terribly, terribly wrong.
What Fulton saw next was the stuff of nightmares. It was a grisly discovery that kicked off an investigation by National Park Service rangers, one that would slowly unravel this unbelievable story of passion, obsession, and a fatal miscalculation. So the big question for everyone was, how on earth did it come to? To really get a grip on how this tragedy happened, you first have to understand the man at the very center of it all, Timothy Treadwell. Well, he wasn't a scientist or a park ranger. Nope. He was a self-proclaimed bear guardian who was convinced he had this unique, almost spiritual connection to these animals. A belief that, as we'll see, was full of dangerous contradiction. For 13 summers, think about that, 13, Treadwell lived out there completely unarmed, filming his life alongside these massive predators. He even gave them cute names like Mr. Chocolate and Aunt Melissa. He talked to them in this high-pitched, almost childlike voice and get dangerously close. I mean, close enough to actually touch them. He truly believed he had built this bond of trust that just defied the natural order. But here's the thing. In the fall of 2003, that world that Treadwell thought he knew so well, it had changed. A whole bunch of environmental factors all slammed together at once, creating what you can only call a perfect storm of danger. A storm that he either didn't see coming, or maybe worse, chose to ignore. First up, the big one, starvation. A really poor berry crop that summer meant the bears were headed into hibernation season dangerously hungry. They needed to pack on fat, and they couldn't. So they were stressed, they were desperate, and they were way more aggressive than usual. And to make a bad situation even worse, the bears that Treadwell had spent years getting used to his presence, the ones he knew, had mostly moved on. In their place came these larger, much more aggressive bears from deeper in the park. These were total strangers. They had zero history with him, and they didn't see a friend. They saw an intruder, or worse, a potential meal. And this right here, this just brilliantly illustrates the final piece of the puzzle. His campsite, the one he nicknamed the Grizzly Maze, was planted right at the intersection of several active bear trails, and it was surrounded by this super thick brush, so you had practically no visibility. Investigators said later, you literally could not have picked a more dangerous spot if you tried. So you've got all these environmental red flags waving like crazy. But the thing that really sealed their fate, that came down to a human decision. Because you see, Treadwell and his girlfriend, Amie Huguenard, they weren't even supposed to be there that late in the year. I mean, check this out. They had already left the park. They were back in the town of Kodiak, all set to fly home. But then, Treadwell gets into this huge argument with an airline agent over the price of changing a ticket. He got so mad that he made this impulsive and ultimately fatal decision to just turn around and go back for one more week. And this part is just so tragic because you have these two completely opposite mindsets. Treadwell was absolutely convinced he had to go back to protect his bears. But his partner, Amie Huguenard, she was not feeling it at all. In her final journal entries, you can feel this deep, growing fear of the bears. She just desperately wanted to leave Katmai and never come back. What happened next? Well, the most chilling and definitive proof came from a video camera they found at the campsite. It didn't capture any images, but its microphone was on, and it recorded 6 minutes of audio that tells the absolutely horrifying story of their final moments. So someone had turned the camera on, probably in a complete panic. But the lens cap was still on, so there's no video. But the microphone was active, and it recorded everything. 6 minutes of audio that documented the entire attack in graphic, horrifying detail. From the audio, it sounds like Treadwell was attacked just outside their tent. You can hear his first screams. He yells for Amie to come out, that he's being killed. She comes out and tells him to play dead. When the bear comes back, he's desperately telling her to fight, to hit it with a frying pan. And the recording, it ends with her terrified screams as the bear drags Timothy away into the brush. So when the National Park Service Rangers finally arrived, the situation was still incredibly dangerous. They actually had to kill 2 different bears that charged them. After that, they began the forensic investigation to figure out exactly what happened and which animal was responsible. A field necropsy identified the main attacker. They called it Bear 141. It was an older male, about 28 years old, and while it seemed to be in pretty good health, it did have some broken teeth, which might have made it harder for it to hunt its normal food. The contents of its stomach, though, left absolutely no doubt about its role in the attack. And this is the part that experts and park officials just keep coming back to. This was not some freak accident. It was a completely 100% preventable tragedy. Treadwell broke the most basic safety rules again and again.
The bear right next to me is Cracker, and she's enjoying a fish right now. Only protection for these animals out here. The government flying over a grand total of 2 times in 2 months. How dare they? How dare they challenge me? How dare they smear me in their campaigns? How dare they? You motherfucking Park Service.
Getting too close, not storing his food right, but the big one, he refused to carry bear spray or use a simple electric fence around his camp, a deterrent that experts are convinced would have almost certainly saved their life. I think one of the investigators said it perfectly with this analogy. It just completely summarizes the fatal flaw and how Treadwell saw the world. He thought he had learned the language, that he knew how to play the game. But at the end of the day, he just fundamentally misunderstood the rules of the wild. To that bear, he wasn't a friend. He was just something that had lost its natural fear of humans. So the story of Timothy Treadwell, it really serves as this permanent, stark, cautionary tale. It forces us all to think about the difference between truly appreciating nature and, well, dangerously projecting our own human emotions onto it. And it leaves us with this final, really challenging question about our own relationship with the wild.